Hey everyone, welcome back to the Energy Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Ari Whitten, and today I have with me Dr. Michael Chang, who is board certified in anatomic and clinical pathology since 1989. And more recently, he switched from being a research pathologist, a hospital pathologist, into being a full-time functional medicine practitioner who is specializing in gut health and mitochondrial health. And he's the author of the new book, Mitochondrial Dysfunction, a functional medicine approach to diagnosis and treatment, get rid of fatigue, fat, and brain fog. So welcome to the show, Dr. Michael Chang.
Thank you very much, Ari. It's a pleasure for me. I enjoyed watching the podcast for quite a while. It's really one of the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we were just talking a bit about this before I started recording, but you were originally trained, you went through medical school, you got your MD, then you went on to be a clinical pathologist working in a hospital for many, many years.
Yes.
And then more recently, just in the last 7 years or so, you've transitioned more into the functional medicine world. So talk to me a bit about your background and why you kind of shifted from a focus on pathology to getting into the world of mitochondrial health and gut health.
Thank you for asking me. It's quite a story. I started out in conventional medicine. In fact, many members of my family are all physicians. So I had no notion of holistic medicine or integrated medicine when I started out. I was just doing straight pathology in laboratory in a hospital setting, and for many years. And so in 2012, I just kind of, as a lark, I decided to do the Functional Medicine University course and became certified as a functional medicine practitioner. And I was really fascinated by the topic, I just felt that was really the answer for medicine, much more than conventional medicine. And but then I didn't really know how to go about practicing it at that time. The course was mainly theoretical, so it was a bit hard to get started. And then in 2017, all of a sudden, I just had a strong calling to really go into this field full time. And my motto was, let's make America healthy, one person at a time. So it's a big calling. So I obeyed and started the clinic in Sunnyvale, California, in the middle of Silicon Valley. I thought, that area kind of needed some help, with both mental health and physical health. And so it was a bit slow going. It was hard to get a hang of the whole, way of marketing functional medicine. And but I kind of concentrated on gut health because I had some gut issues. I had, gluten sensitivity issues. And then I had my own health journey at that time that I was opening the clinic. I had severe leg pain whenever I walked. And I had no idea what that was coming from. And eventually I got x-rays done. I had severe degenerative disc disease. And so I figured, okay, the whole thing's related to that. But then it wasn't quite the classic sciatica. And so I just kind of kept going. It was, during winter time, it would get pretty bad. When it got cold, it would kind of seize up, spasm, and it's hard to walk. And over time, over the past couple of years, it got progressively worse until this past summer, this past winter, when it was really difficult to walk, and I started feeling severe fatigue after just doing short chores, even like just washing dishes for 10 minutes. So it was difficult. And finally, I got the idea that the whole thing was related to a basically imbalance in the musculature in my posture from most likely sitting so much. I would sit, 10 to 15 hours a day at the computer, working on the book, working on my business. And so I think all that contributed to this dysfunction. And so I tested myself using the organic acids test. And sure enough, I had mitochondrial dysfunction. And so that was quite a shock to me. But that kind of explained everything, all the symptoms. And I think, the muscles were just so out of alignment, it would, go into spasm and produce lactic acidosis and causing the fatigue. So, and then this is one area I really never got any training from in medical school. And we're all taught about joints and, but never really the muscle. And so I searched online and found this Egoscue methods where they talk about, doing various stretches to work out your the imbalance. And, that really helped me. And I knew that was kind of the getting to the root cause of my personal crisis. And so, of course, I follow my own therapy that I do for my patients. And now I'm pretty much 95% recovered. So now I have both personal experience with mitochondrial dysfunction as well as theoretical knowledge. And surprisingly, I found more than 50% of my patients, whatever their presenting symptoms were, had mitochondrial dysfunction. So it's a very common issue. And I that's why I wanted to write this book, both for the layman who might come to see me at the clinic, and for the health practitioner who may not be that familiar down to the cellular level of finding the root cause. So, yeah.
Got it. So this kind of shifted your focus into mitochondria, which was not a big focus for much of your practice and is not a big focus of the vast majority of MDs unless they are, in a specific field where they focus on rare genetic mitochondrial disorders, for example.
Exactly.
So you've now delved deep in mitochondria. You've got a book coming out on mitochondrial dysfunction. So obviously you think mitochondrial dysfunction is really, really central to a lot of different chronic health problems. So the subtitle of your book specifically mentions fatigue, fat, and brain fog. So talk to me big picture now about what you see mitochondria, what you see as the role of mitochondria in human health and some of these specific symptoms that you mentioned in your book. So why are mitochondria so damn important?
They really are important. It's at the foundation of all chronic diseases, including cancers, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, autoimmunity, all the chronic diseases that plague our society today. And, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell. And that's what allows the cell to do whatever its function is supposed to be. And without that, the cell really can't function optimally. And so your whole body cannot function optimally. And that's why it's so critical to get down to since functional medicine is all about root cause, you really got to get down to the cellular level. Otherwise, many of the treatments may not work because you don't have the energy to make it work. For example, some of the hormone therapies or detoxification. If you don't have the energy, those protocols just will not work. So it's really critical for both practitioners and laymen to understand about the mitochondria.
Now, what are some of the symptoms, some of the key symptoms that would clue somebody into whether or not they have mitochondrial dysfunction?
Yeah, the key symptoms will be the main symptoms that bring patients into our office. Fatigue is obviously a big one, but it could be anything. It could be pain, it could be brain fog, mood disorders, anxiety, depression, lack of focus. And basically through my book, I've discovered through my research, pretty much all the major chronic diseases, cardiovascular disease, lung disease, are all mitochondrial based. and so as well as the entire aging process. So it really is at the foundation of life. And so I'm now thinking kind of, going into the anti-aging aspect a little bit as well. I think a lot of people are searching for that kind of answer. So this can lead to a lot of possibilities because it's really at the foundation of all health and disease.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the key causes of mitochondrial dysfunction from this paradigm? So, what you've just explained so far is mitochondria are linked with so many different kinds of symptoms and diseases and disease processes and all kinds of different systems and organs of the body. And, if somebody is curious, I recommend going on PubMed or Google Scholar, which is basically like Google for scientific research, and type in mitochondria and almost any disease you can think of. And you'll probably be shocked and amazed to find out that there are studies linking mitochondrial dysfunction to almost every chronic disease imaginable.
Yes.
And so there's just a huge amount of research there. We also know, of course, it's linked very directly with fatigue, given, these are our energy generators inside of our cells that give our body they give most of the trillions of cells of our body most of their energy. Yes. So it makes sense that if the mitochondria are not working well, fatigue would obviously be one of the key symptoms there. Brain fog, of course, if your mitochondria in your brain are not working well, then you're probably going to have brain fog there. But it goes beyond that. Again, literally probably hundreds and pretty much all of the most chronic diseases can be linked to mitochondrial dysfunction.
Absolutely.
Given that, what do you feel are some of the main causes of mitochondrial dysfunction?
Yes. Well, the mitochondria are not just making energy for the cell and for the body. They are actually very sensitive to the environment and to the toxins and infections, anything that might harm the body. And so in today's polluted world, the toxin issue is really at the top of the list. And again, many conventional doctors are not focused on this issue at all, but it really needs to be, because the toxins can easily poison the mitochondria, and they shift from making energy into a cell defense mode. That's Robert Navio's cell danger response. And so once they shift out of the energy mode, into defense, then you're going to be lacking the energy. So you have the fatigue and a lot of the other symptoms, whether it's in the brain, whether it's in the heart, or any other organ that's got a lot of mitochondria. For my case, it was in the skeletal muscle, which is again also an organ that has a lot of mitochondria, because you need the energy for movement. So toxins is really at the top of the list, and also it's sensitive to lifestyle, to stress. Psychological stress can affect the mitochondria and turn off the energy production. Any kind of infection, we all know when we have a viral infection, a virus, we become really fatigued. So any kind of, and many of the infections are hidden, for example, in the gut. So that's why I always look into the gut for any, pretty much for anyone that comes to my office, because you'd be surprised how many people have parasites and hidden infections in the gut, which will certainly affect the mitochondria. So it's exquisitely sensitive to all sorts of toxins and infections.
Mm-hmm. Now, why the functional medicine approach here? So first of all, we should probably clarify, because there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who don't actually, maybe they've heard the term functional medicine, but they don't actually know really what it means. So maybe you can clarify what it means and why you think it's so useful for improving health more broadly, and specifically in the context of mitochondrial dysfunction.
Right. Well, functional medicine seeks to look for the root cause of the symptoms. And we're not treating symptoms per se, but we really want to be like a detective and dig down to the root cause. And so because of this approach, the fundamental root cause is down at the cellular level, and it is the mitochondria. So that's why the functional medicine approach really makes sense in this aspect, where we're looking for root cause really down to the cellular level. And and it's a very, and in functional medicine, it's a holistic approach. We're not just looking at body organs, we're looking at whole systems, including the mind and the spirit, which all play a role, which all affect the mitochondria. So it really is the perfect approach for this condition.
Mm-hmm. Now, what specific tests do you use to assess mitochondrial dysfunction? And I know you're a fan of the Kalish method of diagnosis and treatment. So can you talk a bit about what that entails and what specific tests you think are the most useful for assessing mitochondrial health?
Yeah, the Kalish method is a validated method. They did a research, they published a paper at Mayo Clinic in 2016. And so it's validated by the Mayo Clinic. And the approach is basically using laboratory testing instead of intuition or guessing or whatever other approach there might be. The main test first we do is a salivary cortisol test. And then we always look at the gut with a stool test. I like the GI map, which is a PCR-based looking for microorganisms. And the third major test is the organic acid test. And that one is really, really crucial because it shows 46 markers of many different aspects of the body systems. Basically, you look at the metabolism of your fats, of your carbohydrates, as well as the protein. And it shows you the energy production through the Krebs cycle. Then it looks at the neurotransmitters and looks at your detoxification function in your liver. And it looks at the gut in a more superficial way. So it's really a single test can show so much about your major body systems. And
of those three tests you mentioned, it's specifically the organic acid test that really speaks to mitochondrial health in particular.
Absolutely. The idea is you look at the first 21 markers of metabolism, and if 6 or more of those are low, then basically you're not making energy. You're not properly metabolizing your foods into energy. And so that's metabolic dysfunction or hypometabolic states. Mm-hmm. So it is crucial to do that test. And I really would highly recommend all functional practitioners to be familiar with this test because it can give so much information. And it gives a great snapshot or overall superficial view of all your body systems. So it shows you where the problem areas are and then where to zoom in with additional testing.
Can you give maybe a specific example or two of what kinds of findings you might encounter on an organic acids test and what they would tell you about a person's mitochondrial health and how that would translate into specific interventions that are unique to that person's findings on that test?
Yes, in my book, I gave a couple of examples of a typical patient who presents with, doesn't really matter what they present with. The approach is pretty much the same. And it could be, migraines, it could be fatigue, it could be, can't lose weight, hormonal imbalance. The approach is all the same. You do the same test. And so on the organic acids test, the first 21 markers is all about your metabolism of the foods. Then it looks at the neurotransmitters, which is extremely important. Not only neurotransmitters, but also whether it shows whether you have brain inflammation, and that's a big issue for brain fog. And then the detoxification section is really crucial. That's because that's would reflect on their detoxification ability, and so it would clue you in as to what problems there might be. And then of course finally the guts, even though it's really metabolism of guts organisms in that test, but still it reflects whether you have a problem with fungi, for example, candida, or other bacterial issues that you need to check out further with the stool test. So it's really good overall. It gives an overall picture of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So once you've identified some of those specific problem areas, and you might have some specific interventions, let's say there's a certain imbalance on the organic acid test that suggests a deficiency in a B vitamin, and that or something to that effect.
Yes.
What about nutrition and lifestyle recommendations more broadly? So outside of specific interventions for those findings, what kinds of things on the nutrition and lifestyle level do you find are most helpful for people to recover from some of these symptoms like fatigue and brain fog?
Right. Yeah. For lifestyle issues, I rely on the salivary cortisol test. I know you don't quite believe in that whole adrenal fatigue issue, and I'm not sure whether I do, but I thought Kalish had a nice twist to it. He says use this test to show the patient that they have lifestyle issues, because when their diurnal pattern of cortisol is out of whack, it really reflects a HPA, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction or dysregulation. Whether there's true adrenal fatigue, I think that's a terminology issue, but it does show that there's a dysregulation of that HPA axis. And from that standpoint, I use it to show the patient they must correct their lifestyle, whether it's more meditation, more exercise, in order to get back to a more normal cortisol diurnal pattern.
Yeah. It's kind of a terminology issue and kind of not. So the reason that I would say it's not is because the theory of adrenal fatigue is fundamentally that chronic stress, and that can be conceptualized as psychological and emotional stress, or more broadly as total body allostatic load, the broad range of all types of stressors, physical, psychological, chemical, spiritual, every toxins, every type of stressor you can imagine, those chronic stressors tax this stress response system, the HPA axis and the adrenals in particular, and ultimately sort of wear it out. And it sounds like a somewhat logical idea, but the research just does not support it at all. And I mean, you can look at, and I have looked at all the research and laid it out publicly, but you look at
followed your work.
Right. So you can look at every type of stressor, from like stress from being overworked, stress from being underworked or out of work, financial stress, relationship stress, or more broadly stresses like chronic cigarette smoking and they've looked at it all of these things in relationship to cortisol levels. So being a chronic heavy smoker for decades versus a moderate smoker versus a light smoker versus a non-smoker, being a heavy drinker versus a moderate drinker versus a non-drinker, every type of stress imaginable, chronic pain as well, all kinds of stress. And they can look at all of these things, and they have looked at all of these things in the context of cortisol levels. And 98+% of those studies never show any sort of link or any inkling of a trajectory towards an indication that the adrenals are not able to produce enough cortisol. That never happens. I mean, it's not there anywhere in the scientific literature that's existed for the last several decades. So I think the theory that chronic stress wears out the adrenal glands and causes low cortisol levels is just total nonsense. It should be discarded. But that doesn't mean that low morning cortisol levels do not exist. They do exist, and we know something. If somebody shows up with those things, we know that it's most likely it's circadian rhythm disruption, or being a night owl chronotype, or being sleep deprived specifically. It's those specific things, not all kinds of stress. It's very specific things that can cause it. Potentially there's some weak evidence towards like chronic infections, certain types of toxins, mold exposure, and past trauma. Even in those contexts, it probably is still not any sort of real deficit in the adrenals of producing enough cortisol, but a disruption of the diurnal curve of cortisol. So that's why I say it's not really just a terminology issue. It's literally that the adrenal fatigue theory is not supported by the evidence, but you can look at, sort of what the evidence does say is associated with disruption in the diurnal curve of cortisol. Now, a huge percentage of those studies show a slight increase in cortisol levels, but basically none of them show any point at which that cortisol starts to go from increased levels of cortisol down to any sign of adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion, even in the case of decades-long chronic stress and chronic disease.
But if we look at it from a mitochondrial standpoint, all those factors do affect the mitochondria.
100%.
So, so in a way, I mean, that is the root cause of everything. So, adrenal issue. So in that sense, is a bit of terminology for me, because ultimately those factors all affect the mitochondria. So,
I mean, that's why I think mitochondrial health is a way more useful way of looking at it, because you can find people with full-blown severe chronic fatigue syndrome, and many, many other kinds of chronic diseases in the context of chronic cardiovascular disease, neurological diseases. I mean, almost you name it. If you look at the research on cortisol curves associated with these chronic diseases, even when it's severe, even when it's been there for a decade or two, the vast majority of almost all of those people in all of those diseases have perfectly normal cortisol levels. So I just don't think in general, a heavy focus on cortisol as a big explanatory factor in most chronic disease is all that useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think Kalish learned it from his mentors. This was, 30, 40 years ago when this whole thing was getting started. And so he's still kind of fixing that. But today we know the real approach is obviously starting with the gut. And so, I think the HPA axis is kind of the issue, and it's nice to show something, some piece of paper, laboratory finding to the patient, so that you show them, you got to make some lifestyle changes, and that's serves a purpose.
I agree. Yeah, it's very, very useful on a pragmatic level for facilitating behavioral change.
Right. Which is often the hardest thing.
There's genuinely, I think, a lot of power in just being able to show a person a printout of, you actually have some measurable dysfunction in your body. And then they go, wow. Oh, wow. This is
like
this
your
deal. Maybe I should
is now upside down, So
but
it does make a difference.
The way I look at it is to a large extent, the symptoms should be doing the same thing for a person. Like if you are showing up every day with fatigue or with brain fog, those should ideally have the same effect, right? People should have it in their heads that, hey, this shouldn't be happening. Maybe this is a sign of dysfunction in my body. Maybe I should do something about this.
Yeah, exactly. So from that standpoint, I think it serves its purpose, But obviously for me, it's the stool test and the organic acids test. That's really the foundation of the Kalish approach.
Gotcha. So talk to me about your dietary approach. What kinds of things are you doing on the nutrition level?
Nutritional level, certainly for the mitochondria, it's I like the ketogenic diet. That really helped me personally finally lose my belly fat, which I've had for years. And it was really pretty effortless. So I really like the ketogenic, and I like to combine that with intermittent or time restricted feeding. And between those two, makes a huge difference for most of my patients as well as myself. So in addition to that, of course, we want lots of polyphenols, which actually shows up, by the way. It's one of those rare little facts, because Dr. Lord has been in the mentorship. I mean, he's really the mentor of Dan Kalish, and he invented, he was like one of the original inventors of the organic acids test. So it was really a blast to have him kind of share his ideas of what he was thinking, back then. And but anyways, the polyphenols actually show up in some of the bacterial, the bacterial marker section. So you can show patients, about their dietary condition from that. And so basically, my approach is, number one, remove the things that harm the mitochondria, because if you got toxins, no matter what you do, if you don't get rid of the toxins, the mitochondria are really not going to function properly. So once you remove the things that are harmful to the mitochondria, that includes infections and stress and everything else, then you want to nourish the mitochondria with proper nutrition. Ketogenic diet is fantastic for the mitochondria, as well as fasting. You can do longer fast. That will be recommended. I myself did the fasting mimicking diets, and I enjoyed that. It was quite easy for first timers. I highly recommend it. It's been said it's kind of like fasting on training wheels, and it's very true, because the idea of fasting can be a little daunting for people that have never done it. Yeah. So that was a perfect way to really try it out, and it was really pretty effortless. And we know fasting is tremendous for the mitochondria. Really gives it a good boost. I think, if you can do like a water fast for, longer than a day, I mean, the benefits get increased. The autophagy increases generally after 3 days. And then I really love the part about the stem cells being activated, especially when you get older. That's really something very critical to heal whatever is ailing your body. And so all those kick in after like 3 to 5 days. And so you probably don't want to carry it too long. Then you start wasting some of your muscles, which was something I wanted to avoid. Yeah, those are great benefits to the mitochondria.
Nice. And as far as the ketogenic diet, is this something you recommend to do every day long term, or are you cycling it in some way, or are you recommending to do it for kind of short term and then get back towards a more balanced diet, or what's your take on that?
Initially, when I did it for myself, I was doing that consistently. But then once I kind of started reading about the rotation program, I felt that makes more sense, because I was really, missing eating carbs, and sometimes that led to overeating when the opportunity arises. So I think a rotating thing where you at least 1 day a week you do eat some carbs, I think that is a more beneficial way to go, and so you don't get that craving that people often have. So I think that's more effective, and some people can handle a little more carbs, so it differs from and depends on like how much weight you really want to lose. But for me, once I reach my ideal weight, I didn't need to be quite so consistent with it. So I like the program where you add in one day or at least one meal where you can have you load up on the carbs without detriment. Yeah.
I'm curious, have you seen any effect on cortisol profile when it comes to ketogenic dieting? Do you notice any particular changes in cortisol levels when you put some?
I have not, but it often affects the thyroid function though, including myself when I did the FMD.
For people who don't know what FMD is, that's fasting mimicking diet.
Mimicking diets, yeah. I got into a bit of a trouble with thyroid issues, kind of shut down on me.
Yeah.
And this was like late fall when I did it. And so I felt cold, like I've never felt before throughout winter. And it wasn't pleasant,
Yeah,
And,
there's some research on that. You've probably seen.
Yeah.
There's some research around how ketogenic diets can decrease thyroid.
So that's something to watch out for.
Right.
But
yeah, interesting.
But certainly not everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as supplements, you were in the nutritional supplement business for quite a long time. So I assume you know quite a lot about it. What do you find are some of the most beneficial supplements when it comes to mitochondrial health?
For mitochondrial health, you got to go with CoQ10 and glutathione. Those are tops on my list. And among glutathione, as you know, is the most powerful antioxidant in the body. It's very important for detoxification. It quenches the free radicals that are produced from excessive activity in the mitochondria. And so glutathione is just so critical for so many different functions. And beside that, the CoQ10, I highly recommend the ubiquinol form. I think there's many research that shows that's really much more effective. Lately, they have newer forms like MitoQ, which I haven't tried, but I've heard good things about it. And I think that has a lot of potential. Basically, it creates a charge for the CoQ10 to enter the mitochondria much easier than conventional CoQ10. So that kind of makes scientific sense in any case. And also, I personally have used the PQQ. I won't say what it is, but paraquinone. So,
it's much easier to just say PQQ because it's pyroquinolone quinine or something like that.
Yes, quinine, yes. So I find that in combination with CoQ10 to be quite helpful. That induces biogenesis or division of new mitochondria. And so it turns out, I did a genetic test on myself, and I had some genetic defects that involves some of the functions of the mitochondria, the PCG1 alpha.
Really?
Yes. So that was kind of interesting. And maybe that accounts for why I went into mitochondrial failure,
So what exactly was the genetic?
I had a couple of them. PCG1 alpha was one, and the other one is SLG 12A something or other, which has to do with the electron transport chain function.
So your genetic variants around PGC1 alpha, which is a protein that's expressed to help facilitate mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of mitochondria.
Yeah.
So you had a mutation or variation that that leads to decreased expression of PGC1
Exactly.
alpha?
Yes. Yes. I had never heard of that, so it was kind of a surprise for me, but kind of makes sense. So PQQ would really be helpful for someone with a variance like myself.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, I think the combination of those two makes a lot of sense. But there are so many others that can really help the mitochondria. Another one that I really like is free-form amino acids. Basically, these are amino acids that are extremely easily absorbable in the gut because they're not in large chains, so they're just free-form. And so you want to saturate your body by taking about 9 grams as a bolus, mix in some liquids, and then that gets easily absorbed, and that goes right to making these protein complexes of the electron transport chain. And so you're really just boosting up all the electron transport chain to pass the electrons and form ATP, form the energy. So that can be quite helpful.
Yeah. Now, which specific amino acids are you talking about? Are you talking about any particular ones or essential amino acids?
Yeah, they're basically a mixture of the essential amino acids,
Okay.
including the branch chain ones.
Okay.
So I usually add a little more of what is it? Tyrosine.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of it's a rate limiting step, and so that just kind of takes away any kind of impediment to making proteins on the electron transport chain. So yeah, and I find that to be helpful, kind of a quick boost, to the mitochondria.
Nice. Now, what about, so we've talked about nutrition and some of your approaches there. We've talked about supplements. What about lifestyle habits? What do you feel are some of the key things to shift on the lifestyle environment level to help facilitate mitochondria?
Yeah. For myself, I was using hydrogen water because I had an opportunity to try it out when I had acupuncture, and I found it really helpful afterwards to recover quickly. And so I signed up for this machine through Truzy, and it's a really good machine, and it produces about 9% hydrogen water, one of the highest out there on the market. And it really helped me recover whenever I had that fatigue after a little bit of exertion. I would either inhale the hydrogen and or drink the hydrogen saturated water, and within 2-3 minutes the pain is gone in the legs. It really helped me recover, and it also helps my exercise abilities. I drink it before exercise and after. It just makes it so much easier, a quicker recovery.
Now, for people who have never heard about hydrogen water, talk a bit about, first of all, what it is. I guess that's pretty straightforward, but what the proposed mechanisms of action are as far as what it's supposed to be doing inside your body.
Yeah. Well, hydrogen, as you know from the periodic table, it's the first element.
You just triggered some past trauma from my college, at high school and college chemistry courses.
Yeah.
Don't say that word, periodic table.
Sometimes those triggers can be kind of frightening. I agree, like Krebs cycle and all that too. But
biochemistry is cool, but just regular organic chemistry. Maybe I had some bad teachers, but
must be. Well, it's the smallest molecule, and it gets right through any kind of cell membrane. Goes right through the cell membrane, right through the nuclear membrane, right through the mitochondrial membrane, and in the mitochondria it goes to work. It activates the NRF2 pathway, which is involved in anti-aging, and many other pathways. Are still studying it, but there's a lot of research already, mainly coming out of Asia. that shows it has so many benefits on the mitochondria. And for me, I think it really helped me tremendously get over the fatigue quickly, because is such a small molecule. It can go to work at whatever level immediately. And there's really no downside to this therapy. I mean, your own gut produces several gallons of hydrogen per day, so it's certainly benign, innocuous.
And is the gut producing it in the form of hydrogen gas that gets, I mean, is it flatulence? Is it going out of our butt as gas, or is some of that gas getting into our bloodstream where it's acting on some of the same mechanisms that hydrogen water is acting? Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's both. It's also used by other bacteria. Some bacteria feed on the hydrogen gas to produce whatever they're producing. So it's got multiple uses, you know. It's beside NRF2, I think there are many other pathways it activates. I think,
you know, what's interesting is most people talk about hydrogen water as an antioxidant itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking about it in the context of NRF2, then what it really is a hormetic stressor, and probably it's a pro-oxidant in that case.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting reframe from the way that most people talk about it. And I actually heard that aspect of the NRF2 activation around hydrogen, because I'm so used to people saying, oh, hydrogen is such a powerful antioxidant. But I do see, I looked it up quickly and I saw that there are a number of studies looking at hydrogen, both gas and water, activating the NRF2 pathway, which ultimately, for people unfamiliar with that, translates into activating the cell's internal antioxidant defense system.
Yes.
So it does indirectly create an antioxidant effect by virtue of, in most cases, being initially a pro-oxidant, and then it translates into stimulating your cell to produce lots of antioxidant.
Yes, and I think it's a more precise way to produce antioxidants. Basically, when the body really needs it, it's there.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, you know, it's not there. So that's very powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a much more intelligent way of trying to affect
rather than just taking a ton of just taking tons of antioxidants, because you know, sometimes the free radicals are not all bad, and they have signaling functions in the body, and so we don't just want to quench every single free radical all the time.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, absolutely. So what other strategies on the lifestyle level do you find are effective for improving mitochondrial health?
Yeah, well, for me, you know, the cold water therapy is very helpful. I do cold water plunges as often as I can, cold water baths. I love it doing that in the Sierras, in the mountain lakes, where the water is maybe about 60 degrees or so, which is really perfect for that. Try to stay in there as long as you can. You can also end your showers with a quick turn off the warm water. Especially in summer, I just take cold water showers. It's very refreshing. And also, another thing that really helped me was the infrared saunas. When I had all the stiffness and pain in the legs, that thing was a godsend, literally. You know, I just staying there, and all the pain would go away, and then follow that with a cool shower. It's absolutely fantastic. And those are all hormesis, as you know, hormetic things to do, which is hormesis is basically a mild stressor of short duration that invigorates the mitochondria without going too far and draining the mitochondria. So it's fantastic. And of course, I love the red light. I learned about the red light through your book, Ari, which is fantastic. And I do that every day now. I really rely on that. I do it in the morning. It just kind of energizes the whole body, I feel, you know. And then, of course, you have specific areas of pain. muscle pain or joint pain, then that really helps that as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I saw in your book, I was happy to see that the number 3 reference on your list of citations was my Energy Blueprint program. So
Absolutely.
that put a nice smile on my face.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
So, okay, so awesome. So, and it turns out actually all of the things you mentioned thus far are actually forms of hormesis.
Yes.
And cold red light therapy, hydrogen water.
Right.
You are also a big fan of high intensity interval training, as you talk about in your book.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your preferred approach to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really the way to go. What it is you do, high intensity of whatever form of exercise, but just really intense for short durations, 30 seconds to a minute, and then you disperse that with a short period of rest, about a minute. And so I do it on the treadmill or whatever machine I'm working on. And so basically in about 10 minutes, you're done instead of doing, half an hour of aerobic training on the treadmill or something, which, by the way, if you go longer than 30 minutes, actually, inhibits your cortisol. And it's damaging to the body to do those long aerobic exercises. So so this way, this is the best. It really stimulates the mitochondria the best. Just short bursts of energy, followed by a short period of rest, and also just plain movement. My problem was, I had to sit so much at the computer, studying, working on my business and working on the book, and that really, I want to warn the public about this issue as well, because we all sit, most of our day at work. And as you know, sitting is the new smoking, right? It's going to take years off of your life. And it takes a toll on your body, especially when your posture is not correct. I mean, my back and hips just really got all distorted. And that led to the leg distortion, which would, manifest through your ankles into your feet. So the first thing you look at is your feet, and on your shoes, for example. If it shows uneven wear, then that tells you got an issue. And the issue may not be at the feet level, it could be way up, it could be in the neck for all you know. Everything's all connected. So that's one thing I learned through this Egoscue method of posture retraining, really. And it took a little bit of work, but it's well worth it. You can do these posture exercises anywhere, at your desk, sitting down even. I do it in the car. So a little bit, throughout the day is absolutely fantastic. And I love to do, bouncing on the mini trampoline. But I want a short break, I just go bounce for 5-10 minutes and just move your body, move your arms, and it's very invigorating.
Yeah, movement is definitely something we've lost in the modern world, and it's absolutely vital, and people don't realize how powerful it is to just incorporate some simple movement rituals throughout your day.
Right.
So, Dr. Chang, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure and really a privilege to do this interview with you. For everybody listening, I highly recommend picking up a copy of Dr. Chang's new book, Mitochondrial Dysfunction, a functional medicine approach to diagnosis and treatment, how to get rid of fatigue, fat, and brain fog. I've had a chance to read an advanced copy of it in preparation for this interview. It's excellent. I highly recommend it. And Dr. Chang, if somebody wants to work with you one-on-one, how can they get a hold of you?
My website is healedandwhole.com. That's one word. My clinic's name is Healed and Whole Clinic, located in Sunnyvale, but also I do Zoom consults from anywhere in the country, in the world. So check out my website, get the free ebook that's in there to start the whole process of working with me. And
what if somebody already knows they want to work with you? Do you have an email that you can give for them to reach out to you directly?
Yeah, my email is Dr. Chang, DrChang, one word, at healedandwhole.com.
Excellent. Dr. Chang, thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Ari. You too.
Hey there, this is Ari again. One more quick thing before you go. Just make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Energy Blueprint, and also make sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's iTunes or Stitcher or anything else. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview, and I will see you again next week.